First up, it looks like Tadej Pogačar's domination at the Giro's Queen stage might have left some Strava users a little salty. So that's because his ride apparently got flagged on the app. The Team UAE rider and current race leader cleaned up on stage 15 last weekend, not only in the race, but on Strava too. He posted a 220-kilometre ride to the app, taking a number of comms in the process. But he claimed someone had tried to remove him from the top spot of the leaderboard. Writing in his Strava caption, he said, "Who the f*** flagged me?" with a couple of emojis, including a crying face and a devil. To be honest, I'm kind of 50-50 on whether he's joking or if someone actually did it or not.
Yeah, but either way, it's quite funny, isn't it?
It is.
How does a flag system work on Strava? Is it just if one person flags it, it is then flagged and they review, or does it have to be a certain amount of people?
I think it can be one person. I think it's like a self-policing system. And I think really the person who's usually most likely to flag you is the person that you've knocked off the top of the leaderboard. I remember Louise Vardaman, came up to ours once and we were doing some riding around the Pennines and she took a bunch of quams and straight away it was flagged by Strava by the person that she'd beaten. And I can't remember.
Oh, who's that going to be? There's not that many people in the Northeast.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of people, yeah. I don't know what the process you have to go through to clear your name in that situation.
You a quam one day.
Yeah, we did.
I say you got yourself the quam, but it was a bit of a team effort.
It was
naughty drafting. Yes. But that's allowed, right? You can draft as long as it's not motor vehicle.
It was literally like a 2% gradient, random piece of road on the way back to our house, wasn't it?
And then
that then got taken back straight
away. Megan Hopper saw not having that. Yeah. Went out the next day.
I mean, I think the thing is, I tried extremely hard and she hadn't tried hard. And then when we said, "Oh, I've beaten Megan Hopper," and she went, "No, you haven't," and then went back out and got it.
We were like Team Sky peak. It was, the lead out train. It was amazing.
It was something to do on a Saturday, wasn't it?
Apparently, she was riding a gravel bike when she took it back.
Yeah, I can imagine that. But yeah, do you think that perhaps pro athletes have some sort of direct line into Strava for this kind of thing? Because I imagine it does happen a lot.
They have separate accounts.
Did they?
Yeah, there's a little thing Pete was talking about the other day, because he's still listed as a pro cyclist. Oh. About to get that taken away. So when you're a pro, right down to domestic UK pros had the tick as well. And World Tour pros definitely do. And it's just like a little pro account. So you can see who's a pro and who's not pro.
Interesting. And does that give you special privileges?
I don't know, maybe. But it seems that way. Like if you have verification on some apps, you can message in a separate box to everybody else. Yeah. So they're probably more likely to see your request.
But maybe they have like a higher tolerance for like what's considered to be okay and not okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a funny one because I imagine that if you're into racing and you're into Strava, it must be amazing to have the Grand Tours come through your local roads, but also heart crushing at the same time because you're never getting that com again, probably.
Well, most people are not getting it anyway.
No, I know, but for those special chosen few.
In the past, when I did have an interest in Strava segments, and you're kind of looking at stuff, opportunities for ones that you might have a good crack at or not have a good crack at. If the pros have been through on that segment, you're never getting a good look in.
I was just checking the Box Hill KOM to see what the situation was.
Oh yeah,
and I think Ian Bibby had it after. This is historic. I'm thinking back. The Olympic road race went up Box Hill, and then everybody's KOMs got destroyed. And I'm sure Ian Bibby was in the peloton and had it. But since then, people have gone faster, and it's been individual efforts. So I guess if you really put your mind to it, you can beat the World Tour.
Yeah,
a World Tour peloton going through. Depends on the KOM.
There is another explanation for Pogačar's flagged ride, and that's our old friend AI.
Oh.
So Strava has just announced a new feature where it'll use AI to catch cheats. The American company said machine learning will be used to automatically pull up irregular, improbable, or impossible activities on its segment leaderboards. There will also be a new route recommendation engine powered by AI. Strava has also said it's focused on getting more women to use the app. As part of that drive, it's launched night heat maps, which will show activities between dusk and dawn so users can see which paths, trails, and roads are well used in the dark and plan accordingly. It also introduced a quick edit option to make it easier to make changes to activities such as the name and privacy settings.
First, about the AI catching of fake uploads thing. Do you remember digital EPO?
No.
Which is when people would have loads of dodgy KOMs and rides uploaded, but you could put your GPX file from before you upload it to Strava through this website called Digital EPO, and you could adjust how much faster you wanted it to be, and then re-upload it, and it would just change all the data in the file.
Oh, wow.
But they cracked down on it because it had little weird bumps in the speed track, like on the graphs. But eventually people got found out. I remember a few people putting things.
Really? I've never heard of that.
Digital EPO. That was a thing. But that's obviously so easy for them to crack down on if it's a thing. And I guess the AI will stop further more advanced pieces of software like that working.
But I can also now use AI to make a route that I didn't actually ride, but it have the actual route data, so it looks like I've ridden it.
An AI
that's
Jimmy.
what I'm going to start doing, and just have every single com in the entire world.
I'd rather make more songs.
Well, you just do that at the same time. It's just
So quick.
click. Click.
The route recommendation engine powered by AI. I wonder how good that is. I've never found a route recommendation tool that is 100% spot on. There's always been parts that are like, oh, this just doesn't quite work, or I'd shift it here, or you speak to an actual person and it just becomes better. I guess they're working on the basis of using heat maps to work out where most people are going.
They're already doing that.
Yeah.
Komoot already does that as well.
Yeah.
They're
Because
all already
I
doing
Google where I am. Komoot, for some reason, is always the top option on Google, and it's somebody else's route that they've posted publicly. Because it's like a social media, isn't it? And then the ones that are the best get voted up and up and up and up because people keep riding them,
That's
keep
true.
using them,
That's
keep
one-
commenting.
That's one, I guess, generated by a person. I've used Komoot
Yes.
ones where I've just kind of gone, get me to point A and point B. And it's pretty good, but it is not 100%, I would say.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect.
No.
Nah, there's always a little bit of gravel or a gate or something.
I've had bits where we said like suitable for gravel bikes, and it's like suitable for mountain bikes. Uphill, like stones that we just couldn't get past and stuff like that. So it's...
The other one I found quite frustrating with road route planning is then when it starts taking you on paths or cycle paths that you just wouldn't use.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of, but then to use the road that's next to it is like completely and utterly hideous because it's like a 60-mile-an-hour dual carriageway or
There's
something
definitely
like that.
nuance. Didn't we once plan a ride from London to Brighton and we used... I can't even remember what we used, but it was a crap route. It was terrible. And we went with loads of people and they were all like, oh, is this your route? And we're like, yeah, we made this and we shouldn't have. It was rubbish.
Street view is the way. You pull the little orange man onto the Google map, and you can do that inside Komoot. This is not sponsored by Komoot. You can do that within Komoot now and actually see via Google Maps.
That's a lot of
Street view
work,
thing.
isn't it?
Yeah, if it's like a 100-mile ride, would you go to the effort of doing
No,
it?
it's just, well, it depends on how many roads there are. You'd be surprised if you're riding, like, I don't know, point to point when I do the bikepacking trips. There's not that many roads you need to check. And you just do a few, put, every 10K or so. And before you know it, you've looked at the whole route and you're like, oh, okay, that road isn't as big as I thought, or I probably don't need to go around the houses on this bit. So it's just 10 minutes of work.
I actually think point to point is easier to get a good route than a circle. What's it called? A loop. Because if you're doing a loop, you want to go out and back, not on the same road, ideally. So then it's having to find more options to be able to do both directions. Whereas if you go point to point, it could just go, the best road to use in that direction is this one. And then you're more likely to land a good one, I think.
On the getting more women to use the app thing, I wonder if that's come off the back of... Do you remember when they launched DMs, direct messaging, last year?
Strava's got DMs.
Yeah.
Has it?
Apparently. I say apparently because, again, I'm not using it, but there were a few articles that came out. One by Michelle, who works for Cycling Weekly, and I know there was a couple in the running space as well of women just kind of saying, this is why I don't use Strava anymore. And it basically amounted to the fact that they were being approached and or harassed by other users of the app, and the fact that this location-based social media thing just isn't potentially a safe space for women. So I think that they've tried to address that. The quick edit option is good in the sense that you can change your privacy settings, but I don't know, I would never... The reason that I stopped using it, and the reason that I think for a few people it starts gathering dust, is because as soon as you put all of your stuff private, you're then kind of not in the social media mix anyway. And then it's kind of like, what's the point of using this? You know, if you're using, for example, a Garmin or whatever, you can log your data there anyway, so you can see it. So unless you're specifically using some sort of data thing that Strava provides, I think if you're private, you don't go on the leaderboards properly either, do you?
I don't think so, no.
No, so you kind of don't get to. I don't know. It's a flaw of their system, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad system. But I feel like there's definitely a barrier to participation for women in terms of safety. I don't get the night heat maps thing at all. This kind of showing you how well used a thing is in the dark, so you can plan accordingly. I personally just wouldn't ride at dark. But
I guess it's for thinking about it, because it does. On the surface feels a bit odd, but I guess if you're going to be training, because you train a lot, you are definitely going to be out in the night.
Yeah.
You get to use a night heat map, which means that you're going to be doing it somewhere where there's going to be lots of people.
Is that better or worse though?
Well, yeah. In the perfect scenario, you do it somewhere where there are definitely 0 people, but that's probably not an option.
This is based on only people using the app though as well. It can only give you data for people who are actually uploading their rides to Strava.
Yeah, but that's a lot of people.
It is a lot of people.
Especially like if you live in the sticks, perhaps not. But if you're living in London, for example, like presumably at night, there is using the heat map, and anyway that running around Victoria Park in East London, there is always going to be runners out probably until 11 o'clock at night, and therefore that perhaps makes it safer to run there. And then it also might suggest using roads to get there rather than dodgy canals or back streets. I guess it's that kind of idea. But I think you hit the nail on the head. The only safe option is to not train outside when it's dark, which is...
That's a shame.
It is,
it's
isn't
so
it?
stupid. And it's not Strava's fault.
It isn't Strava's
people being
fault.
creeps.
Yeah, it is. But I think that I would say, for me, that is something that I would think about in everyday life. I would never walk outside at night on my own. I'd think about who's around me if I'm walking from a station late at night or whatever. And I think that is a part of life. It's not just Strava, but I think that there are limitations, therefore, with the use of Strava. But
Part of life in the UK.
I think anywhere, I would say part of life as a woman, to be honest. But it probably, I guess I don't know. It depends what your level of risk perception is. But I think we're all in I think one of the reasons we've all stopped using Strava is also because we put ourselves out on the internet, and therefore there are more people who are naturally interested in us. And, I would say 99.9% of those people are probably completely lovely and don't care where we live or whatever that. But I definitely have a barrier up against kind of wanting to show where I'm riding, wanting to show any patterns of where I am, wanting to show my front door. I'm also very cautious of when people ride to us, asking them not to upload their Strava stuff so that it shows the front of our house. Like, there's loads of things you have to think about in that kind of thing, and how you can piece together, maybe a picture from Instagram along with a Strava route or whatever, to be able to give too much information. And that's probably an issue that is more unique to us. But however, normal people have stalkers as well. So,
well, especially with high value items.
Yeah, well, this is it, exactly.
That's perhaps the next level of London crime, isn't it? Is identifying someone with their 15 grand bike and tracking it back to their house. Because if you've got a 15 grand bike, you've probably got nice things.
So there's a quite well-known mountain bike, I won't use names here, that reckons he was tracked back to his house. So you're mountain biking on the trails, they put a tracker on your car, then they know where the car has gone with the mountain bikes. And they've got expensive mountain bikes because they've seen them in the car park. And he lives in the middle of nowhere, and people have then broken in and stolen his stuff. So like they can get quite elaborate with their marks.
That's the downside of
it's all well and good putting
tags.
a big privacy zone, the big circle. But if the patterns are still there and they know every week you're going to be here and it's at a quiet bit, you're still at risk, I suppose. I like the idea of Strava.
Yeah.
I get it. I get why people use it, but the peace of mind of just not having it
Yes.
and not uploading to it is quite nice. I always think when we do bikepacking trips, like in Australia, and it turned out to be a nice example of this, we were uploading every day. People knew what roads we were going to be on, and then suddenly there'd be a person out, standing by the side of the road like, snake, because we had this stupid snake joke that was going on. It was nice people, but a not nice person could have found us that way.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's not specifically a Strava issue, but perhaps sharing your location and your routines and habits is not, it opens yourself up to more risk potentially.